Hello, I'm Ryan F9 and this is how I winterize my motorcycle in 10 minutes. I always end up doing a rush job of winterization because we'll ride as long as the weather permits and then all of a sudden, shit! So, how do I put this bike away fast without doing any damage? Start by checking the coolant with a test strip. Now here's one I prepared earlier. I do this before running the bike so I don't scald my face off when I remove the radiator cap. A lot of guides will tell you to drain and replace the coolant before winter, but that's dumb. I mean, if the pH and freeze point looks kosher, there's no need. Second step is to add the ratio of fuel stabilizer for your tank's full volume. Now, all modern stabilizers last about 2 years. They prevent the ethanol in my gas from decomposing and then condensating and then rusting my tank and clogging my jets. I chose this iPhone 1 out of laziness. It makes it really easy to see the amount needed for my 10-liter tank. After that, it's off to the gas station to fill her up and cycle the stabilizer through. I'm also taking the long way home with a spastic wrist. Woo! I want to get this engine good and hot to boil off any moisture. Now that I've returned, in record time, I should make a jerry can of stabilized fuel. Because riding like a douche empties gas and my empty space is now gonna condensate. So I better refill the tank to the brim. Besides, how long is it gonna be until I blow the leaves again or mow the lawn? Any engine that isn't run often should be run on stabilized fuel. It makes them easier to start. Now I should clean the chain while it's still warm. This Maxima chain combo has a cleaner that could strip the orange off Donald Trump. So you know it's good. Once I've blasted the crud off my chain and splattered half of it onto the rest of my motorcycle, well, I should clean the rest of my motorcycle. Done-ish. And lucky me, the second part of my chain trio is chain wax. Is this the best lubricant in the world? Probably not, it's too sticky, but because the stuff is thicker than molasses in January, it's perfect for water repellents. Lather it on before the chain cools down, and not just to the sprocket side. Remember that winter storage is about repelling moisture, not friction. Now the third part of this Maxima trio is multi-purpose lubricant. Now they say MPPL, I say, oh hell, it's just expensive WD-40. But since we have it anyway, you might as well spritz everything metal. This stuff is a water displacer, aka rust preventer, aka corrosion protector. You want a thin film of it on your precious metals. Speaking of thin films, Carnauba wax. This stuff comes from the boss of all palm trees in northeast Brazil. And why does that matter? Well, for one, you can honestly claim to be experienced at giving Brazilian waxes. That's quite a conversation starter. Carnauba is also the hardest wax in the world, creating a shiny protective layer on your bike's paint and plastics. It is perfect for preventing the micro-scratching collateral damage of my other winter projects. All right, 8 minutes down, and it's time for our final step, the anti-gravity micro-start battery harness. First, you have to remove the $40 price tag. Then you go vomit. Because $40 for a set of black and reds is hard to stomach. But it's worth spending and installing once, because after that you'll have a convenient plug that can handle everything. Especially a jumper pack. The anti-gravity's wires are uncommonly thick. It's one of very few harnesses that isn't gonna melt under a jump start. Of course, I'll only need that after the biggest snowfall of midwinter, because the rest of the time, I'm gonna ride this bike. That's my secret. And that's how I get away without a winter oil change, or fogging cylinders, or elevating tires. Because the best thing for a motorcycle, bar none, is for it to be ridden year-round. My wife will tell you that a motorcycle ride every 3 weeks is the best thing for me too. And no, I'm not actually doing any damage to my battery. And the rule of thumb here is 1% discharge per day, and at 20% discharge, you start having crystallization on the lead plates. So as long as I ride this bike every 3 weeks or so, no harm, no foul. In fact, many trickle and float chargers do more damage, because if you hold the battery at a near constant voltage, it'll eventually begin to sulfate anyway. You're better off exercising the battery by riding the bike. And I mean really riding the bike. You should never just start her up midwinter, because you're gonna drain the battery without adequately recharging it, and you're gonna move moisture around the engine without adequately evaporating it. So be sure to go for proper 30-minute rides, and wait a minute, how the hell do I do that in a Canadian winter? Well, good thing the anti-gravity harness comes with an SAE current reducer, so I can plug in heated gear without instantly cooking myself. And good thing the Carnauba wax left a strong protective film. Ditto the multi-purpose lubricant, ditto the chain wax. And this way the salt that clears the road surface, it won't corrode my bike's surface. And good thing we made that jerry can of stabilized fuel, because after every ride, I can top her back up again. It's almost like I knew where this video was going from the beginning. Now, there are year-round riders in the coldest nether regions of Canada, but I realize that isn't for everybody. Also, some provinces have prudish winter tire laws, and certain prudes actually obey them. So, how do I do this whole song and dance without needing to ride my bike for 5 months? Test the coolant, stabilize the fuel, ride the bike, top it up, clean the chain while it's warm, change the oil while it's warm, clean the bike, lube the chain, wax the paint and plastic, spray the precious metals. But this time we're not done with the MPPL just yet, because it doubles as fogging oil. Pull the plug, give it a spritz, and you'll displace moisture inside the engine as well. Then I install my do-it-all harness, but rather than jumper packs and heated gear, I have a float charger in mind. Yuasa makes the best ones. Rather than keeping my battery at a near constant voltage, which can cause sulfate crystallization, as we know, they actually use a 5-stage cycle that shuts down completely and puts the battery through a discharge exercise every 28 days. I'll link those chargers down below. If you're wondering why I don't have one of them, it's due to the unique way BMW chose to design my battery. Oh well, if you own a finicky European bike like I do, you can get the same effect by just unplugging your float charger for a couple days each month. Now, before we put the seat back, we have 2 added steps. 1, condition it. This Modal E4 cleans, moisturizes, and UV protects all types of vinyl. You can get similar formulae for leather and rubber. The main thing I like about Modal is that they have a non-slip finish. So if you like to play MotoGP and hang off your bike, that's a cool safety feature. The second thing we should do is store the seat inside. Foam, vinyl, leather, rubber, none of it likes the cold that much. Also, this is a pretty easy thing to chuck in the closet. However, don't be fooled into doing the same thing with your battery. Because batteries work faster in warm weather, we mistakenly think that they want to snuggle in bed with us all winter. But hey, he's just not that into you. Take him inside, he could get pissed and leak acid or fumes inside your house. Batteries prefer cold, dry environments, like a garage, where their chemical reactions are slower and they actually take longer to discharge. Now, as long as you don't live in Snag, Yukon, where it drops below -60, you're not gonna have to worry about charged battery acid freezing either. At this point, most people are gonna chuck some steel wool to plug the exhaust and a cloth to cover up the bike, and we'll call it job done. But let's be more clever than that. First, inflate your tires to the maximum sidewall pressure to minimize potential flat spots. Notice how my air compressor can run off that do-it-all battery harness, and also notice that I've marked my tires OP, over pressure, so I don't forget to air them down next spring. A piece of foam or stacked cardboard will also spread the load across more rubber, thereby reducing the severity of flat spots. Meanwhile, this separates the tire from concrete, which might have a surface temperature below freezing, even in a heated garage. To be honest, most tires don't really need that much protection, but I have learned the hard way that high-performance rubber, like the really expensive kind, can be cracked and flattened by cold concrete. If you're running fast tires, you may even want to elevate the whole bike. Paddock and center stands are great, but you can also make quick work of it with car jacks. Then there's this thing, which pushes against the kickstand to elevate the rear tire and lighten the front. It is far from perfect and closer to sketchy, but I guess it's all right for 30 bucks. After that, we just need to cover the bike. Now, counterintuitively, we actually don't want a waterproof cover. These can lock in as much moisture as they keep out. Better to use something cheap and breathable, like an old bed sheet or this Nelson Rig dust cover. Now, I always use an elastic to cinch mine tight over the potential house for a mouse, the exhaust port. A defensive minefield won't hurt either, unless I come creeping barefoot for a midnight, midwinter cuddle. And that's how I winterize my bikes. Thanks for watching.